Okay.
Welcome to the Caribbean Edge. Another beautiful night. Tonight I'm going to start out with the Caribbean Edge news, which we have not done in quite some time. But my friend Michelle Hussein reminded me how much she used to love when we did the news. So I said, okay, today's a good day to start the news again. So, of course, we in the United States of America, where a lot of our viewers live, we had a day of celebration with our first female vice president, Ms. Kamala Harris, who is also of Caribbean and South Asian descent. Caribbean meaning Jamaican directly descent. So we're super proud of her. And we've done a couple episodes leading up to this day of just women around the world and young girls and even pets wearing pearls in support of her and women around the world, just queens and sisters uplifting each other. So in today's news, we welcome our first vice president in the United States, such a historic event, creating a platform and setting the tone for young women, for our daughters, our sisters, our granddaughters, future generations, and even for young men. Times are changing, and this is a year of hope. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Caribbean Edge tonight, where we're going to talk about healthy separations. And I really have not had any time or much time to even speak to the guest as usual, because I love to discover everything live, just like you do, about these beautiful people that join me tonight. So I'm going to start with the ladies. We have Miss Cece joining us. And Cece, tell us about you, your name. You have a little history with your name and your heritage as well.
Okay. So my name is actually Clelia, and Clelia was a Italian saint, Clelia Barbieri. She was sanctified. She died in her early 30s and was sanctified. She was responsible for, I believe, organizing charitable works within the Catholic Church in her region. And she died very young, like in early 30s.
And you mentioned as well that your name, which is so beautiful, has been shared for future generations as
Oh,
well.
yes. So I am the first Clelia. And every year I get a phone call from a cousin or a distant relative saying, "Oh, I'm having a baby. It's a girl. Do you mind?" And what am I going to say? No. I'm like, of course. So there's about 10 of us in my family.
Oh, beautiful. Well, welcome to the show tonight. We're certainly going to dig in as you share your personal experience with us on healthy separations and what that means to each of us individually. So, welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very nice to be here. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. And Miss Erica, welcome. Tell us about you, Erica.
I'm a newlywed. Second time's the charm. I hope. I was recently married in September. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I'm in Atlanta, located in Atlanta now. I've been here for a little over 10 years. And I'm just excited to be here with the panel this evening. Um, and talk about healthy separation and kind of how we can help other people achieve this. So,
Awesome. Well, welcome as well. And yes, second time is the charm. So you'll be able to tell us all about the first one, whether it was healthy, unhealthy, lessons learned as well, I'm sure, in there from all of you. And Mr. Michael Anthony Coffey, welcome. And you're tuning in from the beautiful island of Jamaica.
Yes, I am, Dawn. And listen, thank you so very much for your invitation to be on the Caribbean Edge. You know, it's I'm so honored to be here. And hello, ladies, Clelia and Erica. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
So tell us about you, because you actually came up with this topic. And I know you are a broadcaster. In fact, Gina Jarrett, a mutual friend, said to give you her love. She said, tell that handsome Michael Coffey I said hi.
Tell her I said love back, okay? She's a wonderful soul.
Yes, yes. And she was wearing her pearls today. So we posted her as well in the Caribbean Edge. So
there you go. Girl power, okay?
Girl power, yes, all the way.
Yeah.
So tell us about you and what you do, and why is this topic important?
Well, I'm primarily known as a broadcaster. I have been in that role here. Well, I started in Canada, which is where I was trained. And I've been a broadcaster here now in Jamaica for just about over 30 years. My passion really, though, has been psychology, and I have a degree in counseling. So I'm essentially a CBT counselor. And CBT, I'll tell you more about that in a nutshell in just a while. But essentially, it is my passion because psychology is vital to unlocking the key to understanding one's self. You know, it's a vital key. And I have had a really tremendous insight just by, studying that particular discipline. And my passion has always been helping others. And so therefore, this is for me a perfect fit, because I do a program now on Mellow FM 88.1 in Jamaica. It's called Life and Relationships, because all of life is a relationship. And it's steeped in psychology. And it just so happens that tonight, the topic I was discussing is, healthy separation. And so I came up with this topic because after talking to a number of clients and getting to the root of a lot of the things that causes or contributes to separations, what I've found is that there is this, there is a misconception around separation, and it's very deep rooted and deep seated. And it's that separation, it has to be a dirty word. It's very ugly. It has to be ugly. People have to be at each other's throats. And all the dirty linen comes out at that time. And while, yes, a lot of that is true, because folks have bought into this idea, at the same time, it does not have to be that way. And I've spoken to quite a number of persons who have had healthy separations, and they're saying, yes, it has happened, and so therefore I thought that I would raise the subject on the Caribbean Edge, and you invited me, and so here I am.
Well, thank you. And I agree, it doesn't have to be ugly. However, it tends to be that way. And you asked me that question, and I was like, yeah, I had to hesitate, right?
We said, really?
Yeah. Well, I know they're healthy separations. I just don't think, well, I know they don't happen to most of us, at least not right away, because there's so much hurt, there's so much pain. You've invested your time. You're in this fairy tale world, so to speak, or it's not really a fairy tale, but you're living that life for a while. And especially if you're blindsided, which most relationships you're blindsided, that the other person may want to end that relationship. And therefore, it's painful, or more painful for the person that is being left behind. And so to overcome that is difficult, especially when you have kids involved, because you can't just move away and like get some mental space for about 6-10 years and then come back. I'm joking with the 6-10 years though, hopefully quicker than that. But if you have kids, you have to communicate through that hurt. And a lot of us don't know how to do that or don't choose to do that. So I think that's why this conversation is so important, because we all can learn from each other as far as tools, resources, examples, how you can live better with people in general. So I'm going to switch to Cece. Tell us about you. Have you had unhealthy separations?
Absolutely.
What was that like?
It's well, separating is not an easy thing to do, especially when, like you said, you live in that fantasy world, where this is you're forever the love of your life, and you can't see past this person, when you're in that stage, right? And then if you're blindsided especially, it's very, very hurtful. And when people have hurt feelings, we tend to be irrational, so oh my goodness, nightmarish, when and at the time, right? Very hurtful, and the other person is all kinds of things. But I think that once time, goes by, and you've had an opportunity to sort out your feelings, and look at what your role was in the demise of the relationship, I find that eh, once you get to that stage, then it's easier to go back and say, okay, I'm past that stage. We can sit down and have a healthy dialogue about how we can go forward, but it's never an easy thing to do, and it takes time. I don't find that it's something you can do right away, because you have to heal first before you can go back and visit that place.
Mhm. Okay, so may I just come in here, Cece, and Dawn, Erica. Let me be very clear on one thing. I'm not suggesting for one moment that the beginnings of a separation is going to be healthy, or it's going to be peaceful, or emotions are not going to be running high and people feeling like a failure, and that they're unlovable and all of these things. Okay, so let me be very clear on that. The point I really want to stress here is this, that, during the separation, during the breakup, when all the emotions are running high, and at that point, what is happening here is that people are, the communication is not at its best, it's not effective. And especially if the couple was not used to communicating effectively in the first place. Okay? So when you get to a point where you have to separate, and everything has been escalated, it is even more difficult to communicate with each other. And so this is where when rationality breaks down, then this is where fights and the door opens to the kind of nastiness and wanting to destroy each other, because you're not reasoning anymore to begin with.
I agree with you 100%. That's what I mean when I say that, people who have hurt feelings are irrational. When our feelings are hurt, we're irrational people. And, so I agree with what you just said 100%, but, it takes time. What I think plays a big role in that is fear, fear of what you're leaving, or what's being taken away from you, especially if that's the situation, is the fear of the unknown. Like, you're used to this, you're comfortable with this is what now what?
Absolutely. And yes, absolutely. And I quite get that, because one of the things that I find is useful is for whether the breaker or the breakee. I'm using those terms as the one who is leaving and the one who's being left behind, the breakee. I think it is very important for the person leaving to have make some points as to why it is that this relationship is not working anymore. Is it that, for example, we just what we thought we were looking for in a person is just not there? There are any number of reasons why people want to leave each other? Okay, so I'm thinking that if it's a case where the couple has decided that it's just not working anymore, and we need to go our separate ways, because people think that because because two people are together, it necessarily means that they are in love with each other. No, sometimes the loneliest place is inside the home. Okay,
Mhm.
so if it's a case where you've just not, you've tried everything, you've tried counseling, you've tried begging, the begging and the pleading, which I do not, and I do not endorse. What is this term? Please choose me, and I will be whatever it is you want. No, that's not on. Okay, I believe in two people keeping their dignity, and so if it's a case where you just not, both of you have just lost the passion for each other, and you've tried and can't be reignited, fine, it has to separate. Now, it could be that's one scenario. There's another scenario in which there's infidelity. Okay, and it's one of the most difficult things in a relationship to repair. All right, it's extremely difficult. It's not impossible. It's extremely difficult though to repair. And so, for whatever reason, you just can't get it together, and there are ways of doing it. Then, if somebody decides to leave, fine. Finally, the third thing I want to look at is, look, you've invested a lot of time and energy in this relationship. You really tried to make it work. You want it to work. And here's this person, they've either cheated or they're saying to you, look, I don't love you anymore. I'm not in love with you anymore. It hurts and it's hard.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Absolutely. And, when you try or you think you've tried your best and you've done everything you possibly can, to repair or, fix whatever, and it doesn't, some people will become angry, at that.
Yeah, some people,
It's no, some people too. I mean, you find there are exceptions, where you have two extremely mature people that, can sit down and say, okay, listen, this is, whatever, you're not a bad person, I'm not a bad person. It's just that, evolution sometimes takes people in different directions, and you can't be mad at the person, but once you come to your senses,
yes, you can.
that's what I said, you can be, but once you come to your senses,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be rational and realize, okay, you can't make a person change their desires. You can't make a person change what's in their heart. And if it's not in my heart to be in this relationship and to be in love with you, it doesn't mean that, I don't love you as a person. It just means that you're not my person. And I'm sorry for that. I don't mean to hurt you, but you're going to hate me anyway.
No.
So let's switch over to Erica for a little bit. I think Erica wants to join in.
Let's get Erica in here.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Cece's saying about you could be that person for someone else. And I've always, with my first husband, I always describe him as that. He was a good man.
Mhm.
He just wasn't the man for me.
Exactly.
And I learned that the hard way. And it was, I can't say that the breakup was healthy, like at the beginning, totally,
Right.
but it was, we didn't have children together. So that made it easier because that can take a toll. You know, make it a lot harder on people, but it was a marriage nonetheless. So it was easier for me to walk away from the situation. Like, I've had boyfriends that I have clung to tighter than my first husband. And it's because eventually I found out that we didn't really have enough in common to have an ironclad marriage. We didn't have enough um, to keep it going. So for me, healthy was totally breaking things, like really moving out was instrumental for me, and just kind of breaking ties and
Okay,
making
so
myself.
Erica, if I should just interrupt you here for a moment.
Absolutely.
So please share with us that moment, with that defining moment when you came to the place that, you know something, I need to let go of this. What was the defining moment? Take us to the end of that thought.
Okay. It was over 20 years ago, so I'll try. But I
Uh,
do remember I came home from work one day and he had moved in a couple of people, his brother and his brother's girlfriend, and I was like, we didn't even discuss this. Like, he wasn't a partner, and I was learning and had not had. I have a couple of examples of good marriages, but not enough for me to know that it was partnership that I needed to be in, and we weren't partners. And so once I realized, okay, you know, we're not partners. You say things that are what I consider ignorant, like, oh, it doesn't matter how well you do, you're never gonna pass the white man, et cetera, et cetera. That was like, those were the clues leading up to that defining moment, Michael, which was, yeah, I'm gonna start looking for a place.
so if there
And
was one thought, that said, you know, this is it, what would that thought be?
this is not a partnership.
Okay.
This is a
So
dictatorship.
how long did you know him prior to marriage?
Prior to that, I would say about 7 years, and we
Mhm.
dated on and off and didn't see each other, and then saw each other, and then all of a sudden we were in infatuation. And I think that's really what it was from the get-go. So I I blame myself for being younger and not knowing better.
So you're living in two different parts of the world?
Say that
Were
again?
you in two different parts of the world?
No, we were both in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, and you would see
Lots
each
away.
other how often?
Wait, when you say this, are you saying after
Yeah.
or prior?
No.
During
Going
courtship?
into the relationship
Oh,
before you got married.
oh yeah, we would, like, every day. Like, it was that infatuation of we're together. It's 7 days in a week. We're together
Mhm.
7.5 days of the week, just all together all the time.
Okay.
Got to
Yeah.
be together all the time. And it was more for him than it was for me.
You were doing it more for him, you're saying?
No, I'm saying he was the one that was more inclined to want to spend more time together. He seemed a bit more needy of my attention than
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was.
Okay.
Not, but
So,
I was
it wasn't
infatuated.
necessary. Okay, so it wasn't necessarily a mutual thing where you had to see him all the time.
No.
Okay, so right away there is something going on there that a little red flag should start to go off.
Yeah,
Okay.
premarital counseling could have probably
Yeah.
identified all of this.
Yeah. Because the mutuality is very important. All right.
Right.
Because it sounded like you were almost to the point of suffocation there. You know what I mean? You needed some breathing space. The relationship needed to breathe.
Well, I'll give you an example. Football on Sundays, he would have friends over. He'd have, like, the old big screen TV. So he'd have 2 of those out and have some
Game was at your house.
and he was the type that would want to have games at the house and all that. And all 4 TVs playing different games, all on at the same time. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is, I could prepare food. I have no problem doing that. But this is my time. This is my time to see friends. And I was actually, I hadn't seen friends at one point. They're like, in months, where are you? How are you? We're throwing something. Are you coming? So yeah, it was like that. He wanted me there to watch the games, and I mean,
No. If friends were there to watch the games.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Erica. So, how unhealthy did it get when you decided that you're going to move out? Was there mutual conversations about it? You just did it one day?
Well, there were a series of arguments over, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And I did have children that weren't from that relationship. And I just didn't want them to see that, because they had not lived their lives with a lot of chaos. And the arguments were starting to happen. Me leaving and going to stay at a cousin's house. And when your home life is interrupted in ways like that, where you start infringing, not to say family is not there for you, but when you're infringing on other people's comfort and enjoyment, and it's because of domestic issues, and you're now dragging other people.
Right. So at the get-go, right at the outset, there were some very unhealthy signs there.
Yeah. And things, and
Okay.
I always chalk it up as youth and ignorance. That's my go-to, Michael.
Look,
You needed mental growth there.
As I said earlier, right? Look, we all make bad choices. It doesn't mean we're bad people, but one of the things that I ask my clients in this situation is, where did you get your ideas about relationships from?
Yeah,
Where did that come from?
Yeah, I would say it would be from my parents, like they separated years prior. Aunts and uncles, I had seen people that stayed with people for years, whether they were, that one or not. But for me, I think I got married for the wrong reasons. And I think that's why it didn't last. It was 1 year.
Yeah. You see, look, people will stay together. Look, first of all, even if your parents had a great marriage, it does not mean it's a good example, but people stay together for years, and it's not necessarily because they are happy, but they deny themselves happiness, and they live lives of quiet desperation. Okay, so 2 people being together, it's not the years in the marriage, it's the quality of the relationship, within those years. And that's where the essential difference lies. Okay, so in your case, whether your folks were together or they separated, the point is that you would have drawn from that separation some ideas about relationships. Now, it doesn't mean that relationships can't work, or they don't work usually, because look, my parents didn't make it. No, it doesn't mean that. Right. And if they were together for years, it doesn't mean that your relationship will necessarily last for years either. Okay, because their relationship is not your relationship.
Right. And I wasn't prepared to stay with anyone that I was unhappy with, that I didn't feel that I was compatible with. And I just wasn't willing to do that. I knew I didn't have that moment for this relationship where I'm like, oh, what am I going to do next? I don't want to meet anybody. As I've stated, I've had boyfriends that I have tried to salvage things with a lot longer and a lot less healthy and a lot more chaos than this relationship that I'm speaking of. And I just needed to get back into myself and me and identify who I was, because I wasn't 100% sure, what I wanted. I knew what I did. I was learning what I didn't want, though.
Yeah. Cece, what are you thinking as you're listening?
I understand exactly what
Erica?
Erica is saying about learning what you don't want, right? When you're in those situations. And I've seen people stay together for a very, very long time in very, very, very unhealthy relationships. Like you say, you have your ideas about relationships, or what relationships are supposed to be like from your parents. My parents are not together, but I've seen my mother be in a very, very, very long marriage where, it's just the unhealthiest thing I've ever seen, the most dysfunctional, but you could not separate them. I mean, wild horses could not separate these two people, and I don't understand it. At this point, I do. They're old. It's like they don't have,
Generation
what are you going to do?
Yeah,
This
generation
this is the
difference.
last stop. So this is, this is
So,
what.
okay,
got.
so what idea did you have, around relationships?
What
Yeah,
Eric, you said,
having experienced your parents' relationship, what
I
ideas did you have?
learned what I did not want in a relationship by watching that.
Did you make a list of what you wanted?
I don't, not a physical list, but I know, I definitely have a mental list of, what I want.
What's on that list? What was on that list?
Definitely trust is a huge, huge thing for me. I needed someone that I could trust. I need someone that I can respect. I need someone that I can look up to. Um, all of the, I I need someone who's got, morals, values. I need someone who's patient. I definitely need someone who's patient. I'm someone who requires a lot of patience. I also need someone who is very comfortable in their own skin and not needy. I
So
can't,
Go
you know,
ahead, Dawn.
I can't do the needy boyfriend or the needy partner thing. I just, I can't, it's not in me.
And by needy, you mean what? Clingy?
Clingy, someone who, needs a lot of attention, needs to constantly, be with you and, needs me there for those games. And,
Okay.
I,
Oh, you were part of that games crowd as well.
I can't, no, I'm not that person. I enjoy my me time and I enjoy my space. And, I really value being with myself. So I need someone who feels that way as well and, understands that and won't be threatened by it because, I have found that it's not easily identifiable, but, people are threatened by someone who feels that way because you feel, or you tend to make the other person feel maybe unwanted or, not desirable and that's not the case at all.
So
So how
Cece,
long
let me
did you?
ask you this. Have you always felt that way, or as you matured and got older, your needs changed, your directives changed?
I absolutely changed as I matured and I got older. I've been in those relationships where I have absolutely lost myself, because I became everything my partner wanted me to be. I became who that person needed.
Yeah.
Well, who
I,
are you? Have you ever got to a place where you ask yourself, who am I?
oh, absolutely. But we're
And have you
talking
figured that
about,
out?
now, I'm in a much clearer space than I was 20 years ago, in relationships,
So,
where I was losing myself and becoming everything my partner needed me to be, or, I became everything that person needed, and I
So
lost my,
who were you being at that time? Who were you being by, with this idea of trying to become all
I was
things
definitely
partner?
not, I was definitely not being true to myself. I was not being true to the person I needed to love and nurture before I can get to a place where I could offer anyone that.
did you
So
go
definitely
through
not being myself.
did you go through a period, and I want to talk to you about if you've had a healthy separation as well. And then did you, to get to where you are, because I think a lot of women are relating to what you're saying, did you go to a period where you had a space, a lot of space after the separation, the breakup, where you were just alone and it allowed you the time to become, to think about who you are today, what you wanted to do with yourself? Did you go through that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's kind of a scary phase, or it's a necessary space, right, that you need. But it's scary because within that time when you're alone, it forces you to look at yourself. Like, you say you're finding who you are and you're defining who you are as a person, and you're learning, and you're learning a lot of things about you and who you are as a person. And sometimes you may not like what you find, you
Okay.
know.
And when you get to that place where you don't like what you find, what do you do then?
You work on it.
Okay, so
And
you face it, you deal with it.
you face it, you deal with it, and that is not an easy thing to do.
No,
When
absolutely not.
you,
It's okay. So I want to just back up here for a moment, Cece, and say this. When I heard you say that you were trying to be all things
Mhm,
to this person,
mhm,
I saw several red flags there
mhm.
because you can never be that. No one can
Absolutely
ever
not,
be
but
that. Okay.
absolutely not. But you can try to be everything. For example, um, I cook a certain types of food. When I was married, my husband was a meat and potatoes type of
Kind of
man.
guy. Mhm.
Right. My father-in-law, who lived with us, was a diabetic, so he needed a certain type of diet. I was vegan, you know, but my husband did not support that. So eventually I said, you know what, this makes no sense. You know, I
But
need
your
to,
health was at stake in a sort of way because you had a predisposition. You're coming from that family background. Diabetes, it ran in the family, so there's a health issue, a potential health issue right there. Okay.
so
Yeah.
this was, my thinking. So I became, meat and potatoes type of girl because that's what my husband was. And, I cooked everything that he loved, and, doing all of that, I
Okay.
eventually fell within, that pattern.
But here's the thing, Cece. You knew that you possibly could have a predisposition to diabetes. Okay.
No, 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 not me. This is my
No, no, no.
father's
I
fault.
mean, it. You said it runs in your family, right?
No, my father-in-law,
No.
his
Oh, your
father,
father, oh, his father.
right, his father.
Oh, your father, okay, okay.
Right.
So, okay,
So I
so
said-
you became a meat and potatoes person because that's what he preferred.
My
He had a
husband, that's
preference
what my
for it.
husband was, right, meat and potatoes. So, you know, I cooked 3 different meals all the time. It was for, you know, one for my father-in-law, one for me, one for my husband. But eventually, I just wanted to be, you know, I wanted to just please my husband, and, you know, he wasn't supportive of the diet, and he thought I was crazy and, you know, not healthy, and, you know, you need to eat meat.
What did he support you with in a relationship? Where did you get the most support? In what regard?
I'll tell you, it's a funny question. So he became very supportive of the type of wife I became because I became everything he wanted me to be.
Oh, no, hold on. So, hold on. As long as you were doing and being everything he wanted you to be. So he was supporting you for supporting what his wants.
It was exactly, there was no supporting me in anything because there was no me. There was nothing for me.
Okay,
I did
so this is
nothing
what I'm
outside
asking you. So
marriage.
you can't think of anything that was important or essential to you that he was supporting you in?
No.
Okay.
No.
So how long was that relationship, Cece?
This is exactly where I was going to. So this was a very, very long time ago. And you're also talking about someone who was very, very young, very, very young, not mature enough to play the role that I was trying to play.
You were playing a nice mommy. You became
I
his
was
mom.
What was the space she was in at that place?
I'm sorry? What's that?
But,
No, she
you know what?
became his mommy.
But yes, but he's absolutely right. I did everything for him. I did absolutely everything. So, but you know, that's not healthy. That is absolutely not a healthy, you know, relationship. And it took maturity, growth, and all of that. And that came with age. And, you know, not that I stayed in that relationship very long, but when I was in it, you know, it was not the healthiest.
So at what point did you say, okay, well, who was the breaker? Was it you, or did he decide to leave, or
I
decided. So what was the defining moment?
So the defining moment for me was when I saw my daughter. I had a young daughter, at a very young age, start to simulate behavior that she was experiencing in our home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, you know, I saw that and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, okay, it's time. It's time to go.
Okay, so
Michael, give me a second, Michael. I wanna pause for a minute because I want to incorporate the viewers into the conversation as well.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the Caribbean Edge. Wow, what an interesting conversation! My ladies seem to be in the hot seat. I want to incorporate what you're saying here. So if you have questions, please ask these beautiful ladies and our gentleman, Michael. Let me see what you have in here. I know I saw a few. Carl Russell, a best friend in my lover, someone who I can trust, my partner for life. Well, I hope. And David Muir actually wants to join the show.
Tell David Muir no. Tell him he had his opportunity.
So, Michael, Marlene is asking you a question. She wants to know if you're separated because it sounds like you would actually dominate the relationship. So that's a question from Michael.
Okay, it sounds like, am I separated?
Are you in a relationship?
Have I ever been separated?
Or are you separated?
Yes, I have. I have been through a separation.
You have been through a separation. I think, ladies, you should ask Michael some questions. It's your chance to ask a man from their perspective, because I know as women, we can relate to what you're saying, but we want to know what a man goes through. So throw some questions at Michael while you have him.
Okay, I'm very open to answering questions, but let me preface by saying this. There's a mistake that women make, mostly, and that is I can only speak from my experience. I can't speak for all other men. There are some commonalities which I have identified over time, which will tell you when a relationship is headed for a breakup. Okay, but each couple's experience is unique. No two couples are the same. Okay, there are some similarities, but they're not the same. So the questions I will ask, I will try to generalize them, not because I'm trying to evade the question, but because, as I said, each couple's experience is unique. All right. So having said that, go right ahead.
Well, I would ask Michael, what does the healthy separation look like? Because you are our in-house expert right now on the topic. So I'm curious as to what that looks like to you.
Okay. So the reason that I was asking both of you the question that I'm asking is because when you know what to look for, when you can identify red flags in a relationship, then it is not surprising by the time you get to a point where somebody calls what my partner calls a time of death. Okay? There are certain things that if you're aware of them, you can see them. Okay? For example, one of the things that I heard you saying, Erica, is that I got the impression that this your first husband was someone who wanted you exclusively for himself and no one else. And I'm also getting the impression that he was cutting off a lot of your support systems, i.e. friends that hadn't seen you in a long time, and possibly your parents, the visits got less and less, or those people who you're close to, because that's what men who are in a controlling mindset, that's what they do. Okay, so they cut off your support system so they have you all to themselves. All right, that's one thing. What I heard Cece saying, for example, in her situation, is that she was playing mother to her partner. Okay, this is not a look. I'm not looking to marry my mother, and so therefore, in the courting stages of a relationship, this is where you start asking some essential questions. You need to find out more about this man. What is it you're expecting from me? What are you looking for in a lover? Who are you expecting to be? There's a chart that we have in terms of relationships, and I think every individual should have something like that. Whereas you're asking yourself some serious question: what are you looking for in a partner? As in a romantic partner. What are you looking for? Is this person someone I could do business with? Because when you're in a relationship, you actually there's a lot of business. There's money passing back and forth. Okay, is this person someone I can trust as a business partner? Would I do business with this person? What are you looking for in terms of would this person be a good parent for children? And in that particular question, you want to notice if that individual has the kind of qualities that you would say, I'm looking for these things in the father of my child. This is what I would expect him to do. Okay, and then you're also looking at, is this person a good lover? Now, the whole idea is the focus is usually very heavy on the love side of it. Okay, to the detriment of all the other aspects of the relationship. And I think each person should ask themselves some of those basic fundamental questions. in turn before they start to engage, or when they start to engage with someone. So you kind of have a sense of where you're going. Because in that infatuation phase, a lot of the important questions, they get overlooked. And it's not until you commit yourself, or you've been in it for a long time, and you're realizing, wait a sec, this is not going in the direction I'd like it to go, which should be fundamentally one of the questions that you would want to ask as well.
But that comes with maturity, correct? That comes with when we first, if we think back to our youthful days, or our more youthful days, I should say, we go by our emotions, our feelings. We may think of some of those questions, but definitely not to the depth that we do now. I'm sure, like Cece mentioned, it takes a level of maturity and a separation and discovering yourself as well. I think what we want to know from a female perspective is, have you had an unhealthy separation, and how did you deal with that? And then if you had a healthy one, what are your life lessons as well?
Okay, so my separation, as I was saying earlier, you have a period where you go through where, yes, you're angry, okay? And depending on if you're the one doing the breaking, saying goodbye, then, yes, there are feelings there on your part as well. Because I don't want to get the idea that men, generally speaking, or again, let me speak for myself. Yes, because I was quite aware that this was going to hurt. And as someone who is very much a practitioner of empathy, I felt it as well, okay? But it was at the point where I decided that this was just not working anymore. And I had to, for both of us, make the break. Because it's, I could stay in it and say, okay, fine. Yeah, I'm not the one really, I'm not really in any distress. I mean, she is, okay? But the whole idea is that, no, you may not be aware of it, but it takes a toll on you as well. Okay, so you're both losing. And I think it's also cruel to stay in a relationship where, you're contributing to someone's unhappiness. Someone is suffering as a result of you being there. And so, because there was so many years invested and so much time and so much energy and children, it really was quite painful and quite hard. And there were periods of anger, there were periods of disappointment, Yes, there were some, there was unpleasant conversations, but you get to a point where you realize that, look, you have to make allowances for that. Two people can't quarrel, one person can't quarrel by themselves. And so if you are, as in my case, if you are the breaker, the point is that you have to realize that, yes, the person is going to be angry, and you have to make room for that person's anger, for them to vent, and allow them to get it out of their system. Because at the same time, what is happening is that this is something that is quite painful. So yes, you have to make room in the relationship, and this depends on the individual. I am the kind of person who, because at the time I was actually involved in counseling, what I recognize is that whatever it is that I was telling my clients, I had to be the best example of that. Okay? Sure, go ahead, Cece.
How many people do you know have the type of insight that being in your field have, right? Okay. A lot of the insight that you have is because of the practice that you're in.
Okay.
Correct?
What do you do? What do you do? For are you a professional?
Construction management is
okay, and that's something you studied, right? You went to school for that.
I learned a lot of it I studied, but through work. Yes.
Yeah, but there was some training and
Yes,
that kind of thing.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes.
You know,
not
one of the problems that we have with them, one of the problems, and I'm going to answer your question this way. One of the problems that we have, CC, is this. I hear people say, relationships are hard. Love is easy. Okay. I take the opposite. I take the opposite view. It's precisely for that reason why they have so many problems in a relationship. Okay. Relationships become easy when you have a sense of that. Look, love is not easy.
It's not.
Love is not easy, and don't. A lot of people say they're falling in love. They're falling in infatuation, or they're not in love. They're in infatuation. Okay. The point I'm making is this: if you say you're looking for a great relationship, there are so many books and videos and counselors and different places where you can read and take the time to invest in yourself. Oh, because the point is, Dawn said it earlier. Dawn made the point earlier that look, you're young and it's only look. My sons can tell me a lot of things about relationships because we have discussed them over time, and he has invested time in a read than I knew when I was his age. So youth, when I say youth now, I'm talking about your 20s and upwards, and even it starts even younger. Okay, that you don't have to wait until you've had a serious breakup or some devastating experience to say, oh, gee, I'm going to wake up now. Okay, it starts before. It starts before. So the point I'm making is this: you owe it to yourself, every male and female, to ask yourself some serious questions.
Absolutely.
When it comes to relationships.
Absolutely.
So Michael, let's go back to what I was asking you earlier. You went into the fact that you pretty much two people can't argue, or one person can't argue by themselves. So pretty much because you were the breakie, you allowed the other person to do most of that venting and arguing. So how did that separation end? Are you healthier now? How long did it take you to get healthy? And what advice do you give to allow people that go through that to get to that healthy separation? Is it just sit there and listen to someone yell, scream, kick until they have nothing left to say?
No. You look, both individuals have to get to a place of healing. Okay. And the first thing that I had to do when I decided, okay, fine, there's a separation, the goal for me was to continue to do more work on myself, because it was the work that led me to make the final decision. Because like everyone else, I had different fears, and I had to deal with it. I had to deal with, for example, when you decide to leave a relationship. Unfortunately for me, I have adult children. Okay, now the fact that I have adult children does not mean that they are not caught in the emotional aspect of their parents leaving. They're not caught in what happened in the bedroom and the reasons for leaving and all of that, because that's between the two adults. But seeing your parents separate, it's not a pleasant experience. All right. So I had to deal with, how am I going to work through this thing with the children? All right. And work through it in such a way that I don't vilify their mother is not going to vilify me. All right. Because separations, the dangerous thing when you have children is that people try to play both ends against the middle. And usually the child or children, they use them as pawns in their own game. Okay. And it's a very bad mistake. So that's the first thing I had to one of the main things I was afraid, how am I going to work with this? Because we both have tremendous relationships with our children. Okay. So we had to reassure them that, look, yeah, your mom and I are separated, but we're not separated from you. And you don't have to take any sides in this. We're not asking you to take sides in this. We'll always be here for you. Don't take my word for it. Okay, put me to the test. All right. Anytime you need to reach me, wherever I am in the world, whoever I'm with, I'm here for you. Okay, so that was it. I had to make a decision that regardless of what was happening, I was not going to get into any underhanded games of trying to destroy my former partner. Okay, I was not going to do that. But again, as I said, this was my decision because it was, at the end of the day, hate and anger, it destroys the vessel that contains it. So for my own selfish reasons, okay, I had to ensure that this vessel, me, Michael Anthony Cuff, was one in which I was now investing in. I wanted a healthy relationship with myself first and foremost. Okay, and then I kept extending as best I could, and I had to be careful because I don't want to give the impression that sometimes for healing to take place, you have to disappear for a while. You have to cut the ties. Okay, and when you have kids, especially young kids, because as I said before, my children were adults, but when you have children, young children, it is very, very hard to do that. But it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And if you have the will to do it, you can do it. Okay, and it takes love. Love is hard work, but if you have the will to do it, it can be done. Right?
And I think a lot of us relate to that as well. When you are mature enough, a lot of male friends that are watching this are probably saying, oh no, women, we're used to women using the kids as pawns, as you said. So it does take a mature man and woman to say, we're gonna put the interest of our kids ahead of ours, because that's really what you have to do. And then also, somebody has to give in and compromise, at various stages in that separation as well. So those are some important things, but not a lot of us go through that,
Let me say this to you. I'm not speaking to persons who are intent on being angry and destroying others and themselves in the process. Those are not the individuals I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. Some people, if they choose to want to be angry, and that's okay. That's their choice. I'm speaking to someone who's in a situation or been through a situation that they want to learn from the process. Okay, they want to have 1,000 different experiences, but not the same experience 1,000 times. Okay,
but you are actually speaking to those people, because
right. So
one of the key things for this show is this particular topic is so that we learn from each other. So people that may watch this show and may be going through a breakup, maybe now or in the future, can see that there's different ways to handle it. There's healthier ways.
And that's the point, and that's the point of the show, okay? Because in order for you to handle, you see, love is work. You see, my definition of love that I operate by, for me, love is the will to extend myself for the purpose of nurturing. Like you do a plant and you nurture a plant so it will grow and thrive and be healthy. Well, it's the same thing with our minds. We have to nurture it in such a way, okay, that it benefits us primarily and the other that we're involved with. Okay, so it's the will to extend myself for the purpose of nurturing not just my own, but my partner's emotional, psychological, spiritual, mental, and sexual growth. And that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of nurturing.
Cece, tell us, you mentioned you had, I want to switch over to Cece for a little bit. I want to hear from our ladies. So Cece, you had a healthy separation as well. So tell us your perspective. How did that go? And what made it healthy? And I want viewers to see what it's like from a woman's perspective, the impact of being healthily separated.
So I think that what made it healthy is the fact that we were friends before anything else. And we, we had back then and have still a good relationship, and when it came time to, for the relationship to end, it was a conversation. Literally, it was beautiful. It was a conversation. It was an understanding that I love you as a human being, as a person. I always want you in my life. But there are, there are things in within me that are not fulfilled in this relationship, and I know that there are things, within you that I'm not fulfilling, but because we love each other so much, we stay in this, thing that we think we should be in, and that's not the case. We can still love each other and, be great friends and not, be in this thing where you're not 100% happy and I'm not 100% happy, and still
You
be in
know,
each other's lives.
yeah. Just to pick up on what Cece is saying there, eh, it's possible for two people to be great friends. It's just like you have a great girlfriend, somebody who is just there and they have your back, you have their backs, kind of thing. But usually, what folks have a hard time, when you have A, children involved, B, if the fear of leaving another person, I think Cece said it earlier, what's going to happen to me now? I've been with this person that, what does the future hold?
Who's going to want me now?
Who's going to want me?
The fear.
Yeah, am I desirable? And I think essentially, and if there's one message I'd like to get across tonight, it's this on the edge. The fact that someone chooses not to be with you, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Okay? I've heard too many women say in counseling and elsewhere that something must be wrong with me. Why doesn't he want me? Okay? Look, if you stop, for example, and think about it, I said, have you ever not want to be with someone? They were interested, but you were not interested. Say, yeah. Okay, and you let them know that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm saying, well, if you have that right of refusal, and you would want that person to honor that, then why wouldn't you do the same thing for someone else who says they're leaving? That is what I think we lose sight of a lot in relationships. Okay, the fact that I'm leaving, it doesn't mean that the person was inadequate, or there's something wrong with them, or that, it just means that, I am at a place in my life where what I'm looking for, what it is I want in a relationship, okay, it was just time for me to move on. We were kind of moving in two different directions.
But I also think,
yeah, Cece, I want you to finish telling us how that separation how you went through it with this person.
okay, I just quickly to chime in on what Michael was saying. Part of loving someone is wanting them to be happy, and being happy doesn't necessarily mean being with me, because at the end of the day, I don't have to equal happiness for anyone, right? So my separation with this person, we're now friends for 28 years. We've gone into this August will be our 29th year of friendship. And like I said, we were friends and we just understood, he understood that the fact that, I didn't want to be, I wanted him in my life, but I did not want to be in a relationship with him. And I made that very clear.
And
And
that's a romantic sexual component you're talking about. Then.
I'm sorry?
When you say want him in your life, I mean, because if you're friends and there's an
I
exchange.
want
Yeah.
him in my life as my friend, not as my lover.
No. So, well, okay, because what I was wondering is that if you can you're not still together as
No,
a couple.
Absolutely not. No.
All right. So you don't have to play the mother role anymore.
No,
And
this is a different
and if
relationship.
there's no
It's a different
romantic sexual involvement, but you can still get along as friends.
Michael, it's a totally different relationship that she's
Right.
talking about. She's talking about a healthy separation, and they made a mutual decision, spoke about it, that they would no longer be in a relationship, but they loved each other enough and respected each other enough to continue as friends. And they've been friends for 20 something years. That is a beautiful, because it really doesn't happen in a lot of situations. So that's why I wanted you to finish that story, because it's important that if as a couple you decide this isn't for me, but you have the maturity to walk away and have those conversations versus staying for years and years and years, possibly having kids and staying together even longer, then you've prolonged the relationship from breaking up. So a great example of a relationship that can turn to friendship.
Right.
Yes.
So what I was trying to understand, Dawn and Cece, is this: what is different now in terms of what they had before? You see what I'm saying?
So what is different now?
Yeah. What is different now?
What is different now is that I don't no longer have the pressure of, being in this relationship that I did not want to be in, and because I didn't want to hurt this person, because I love the man. I absolutely love him, but he's just not my person. And so now what's different now is the fact that we both understand that, and we're okay with it, and we understand that, just because I don't think that you're my forever person doesn't mean that you can't be my forever friend, and be in my life, and have a healthy relationship. We don't argue. The man, he's never called me out of my name. I mean, we have the utmost respect for each other. We have a beautiful friendship, and there are no hurt feelings. And I think what was really, really different about this separation for me, Michael, was that the fact that there was a point where because there was a point where I felt that maybe I could not be friends with this person because I was so afraid of the hurt feelings, and not wanting to feel responsible for that. I felt that maybe walking away and just walking away would be the best thing for me. If you don't know, you don't see, you don't feel, right? But he said, no, wait a minute, stop. Tell me what you need from me in order for you to be comfortable in a friendship.
Oh, that's
And
a really good guy.
That
So,
was
okay, yeah.
I want to ask Erica to join the conversation. You're a little quiet there, Erica. So anything you want to say about the conversation tonight and what Cece's saying? Because I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely. What she just described is, I think, what anyone would love, anyone would like to be the turnout. And it's probably rare. I also think that she is segueing into a great future topic that she would probably do really well with. And then because there are people who, make the choice to continue to be friends. And yeah, I just thought that was,
Yeah.
too very adult, very grown up and mature, and it's working. My question, and I don't want to get off topic, but I just wonder, and I'm going to say your name, Clelia, just because,
Oh, that was perfect.
just because I can.
I love how she said it. I
And
love
I wrote it out so I could pronounce it. But I would just wonder, how does that work? That friendship work? Do you guys discuss that history with new relationships? Does he discuss it? Does your partner discuss it with whoever he may be seeing and you may be seeing respectfully?
Well, it works this way. I go into relationships with the full understanding that, I'm not the first person in your life. And, you're not the first person in my life. I am, as old as I am, and I have, relationships that I've had for a long time. And some of them have been sexual, relationships. And I would hope that I'm meeting someone who's mature enough, to understand that, just because you're coming into my life doesn't mean that I have to, exclude other people who are important to me simply because we've had a sexual relationship in the past. That's no longer the case, and I'm honest with you about these relationships because I care about you, and I care about, being honest with you, and I respect you enough to tell you the truth. If you can't in turn respect that, then maybe you're not the person, that I need to be with. But people who come into my life will know this person is is part of my life. He's been in my life for a very long time, and he's not going anywhere. We have history together. It's almost 30 years.
I
Of
think people are accepting of that. I think when you have full
Right.
disclosure of a friendship with the opposite sex, even if there was sex involved, women or mature women are very open to that. And I'm so glad that you shared that with us, because healthy separation is key. And Erica mentioned, this is where I think we're just touching the surface of this topic tonight, because most relationships I know, most of my girlfriends, my entire life, which isn't that long, but have been unhealthy. I mean, you asked that question, how was your separation? Or you've been there when your girlfriends are crawling up in bed, crying their eyes out. And it's usually because someone cheated on them. I know Michael mentioned therapy earlier. Most of us do not go to therapy because, our mentality is, what is someone else going to tell us, right or wrong? I have family members that are.
No, but you see, but this is exactly it. It's one thing to lie in bed and curl up. Okay, that is not going to heal you.
Well, it's what we need to do at the time, but we're not thinking it's healing.
No, hang on a sec. When a breakup has happened, okay, one of the first things that you need to be focusing on is yourself. Okay, the first thing you want to be looking at is healing. You want healing for yourself, because if you're not on a path to healing, and if you're not helping yourself, it is going to get worse. And this is where you're going to start curling up in bed. Look, after you've curled up so many days or so many months, you're going to have to get back to living again. And the fact that you don't know how to work through this breakup, this separation, it doesn't mean that there are no ways of doing it. Okay, you just don't know. You just don't know what they are, but there are ways.
We're
of
not
doing
disagreeing.
it.
However, can I say something about this, please?
Sure.
However, I think that it is very, very important. And I know that you're not disregarding this, Michael, but it's just sounding a little bit harsh. I think it's important to recognize our emotions and own them and allow ourselves to go through whatever it is that we need to get through to get to that point where Michael that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So if I need to break down and curl up in bed for 3 days and cry, guess what? That's
Okay.
what I need to do, because that is part of my healing process. Is
So the point I'm
to
making,
acknowledge
Cece, yeah.
those feelings and to let all of those emotions out, so that the next time I meet somebody, I'm not trying to kill them.
No, exactly. And you look, you're quite right. So let me say this, okay? That the point I'm making here is this, that my battery's dying. If you're curling up in bed for close to 2 weeks,
Mhm.
you're going into deep depression.
Right, of course.
Okay.
I don't
So by
mean
all means, allow yourself this. And this is where
weeks and
friends
weeks
have to
and
now
weeks
watch
and
out.
weeks.
Yeah, you have to know what
That's
to
not
look
what I
for.
mean. No, that's not
Because
what I mean.
yeah,
But
no, and I didn't think
within
that's what you were
reason.
saying.
No, no,
But I
no.
just wanted for those who might be thinking that, look, this is something that you have to go through indefinitely. No, it's not.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. No, it's not. You definitely have to get back to living, and but I think that it's important to allow yourself, those feelings, and know that it's
Absolutely.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And we're going to wrap up. We've gone way over tonight.
It's been great.
And we're going to have another show on this, because tonight we barely touched the surface of
No,
this topic.
it's
So,
extremely important. It's extremely important. And what I'm saying, just give me the last word before my battery runs out, please. And that is this. What I'm saying is not that you have a breakup and tomorrow you're going to be into a healthy situation. No, there's stages that you're going to have to go through before you get there. But there are things that you need to do. You need to recognize, get to a place where you recognize that this thing is over. You're going to have to get to a place where you realize that, look, if I'm going to come through this in a healthy fashion with my faculties intact, I need to be able to start focusing on myself. So the goal of the breakup is healing, okay? And once you get there, then you're going to have to start engaging in forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about the partner. Forgiveness is about you.
About yourself,
and when you've forgiven yourself, you'll be able to, it's easier for you to forgive the partner if you choose to, and if the person is open to it, okay? And so these are just the first steps on the way to a healthy separation. That's what I mean, okay?
Absolutely.
So,
I agree with you. Absolutely. 100%.
okay.
And I think that
Yeah.
it's important, for us to also find ways to, to do that, to have those healthy relationships, because it's important for us, for us as especially, I find, women tend to hold, be more emotional and hold on to a lot of this stuff. And it's important,
Yeah.
for
Cece, can I say this? Men hurt too, but it's just that they display their
men.
emotions
That's what I
differently.
said.
Yeah,
I
look,
said
women have been
more
saddled with this thing
emotional.
that they're emotional, right? Emotion is a human thing, okay?
Mhm.
We're all emotional. It's just that
But
men
we not all,
emote differently. Yeah.
not all of us wear our hearts on our sleeves, and that's it's Erica, what do you think about women and being emotional, and as opposed to men, and how we hurt differently?
I had friends years ago I had a particular girlfriend that would say, you never cry about when you have breakups. You never, how come? And I mean, they didn't always know I was dying inside. I might lose 10 pounds over a breakup
Yeah,
because I can't eat, I
break
can't sleep.
diet.
I'm obsessed with the situation and what's going on. I'm going through the crying and being balled up. I'm talking everybody's ear off about the situation. They're starting to get, okay, we love you, but and unfortunately, I've had even people say the best way to get over somebody is to
Oh,
get
Michael.
somebody else, and
Yeah.
which I've done my darndest not to follow, because I have enough sense to know that that's not the case. But I think just rebuilding your network is a good way. For me, it was seeing friends again. It was getting out again. It was, having dialogue that I missed,
Building your support
I think we
system.
shouldn't give up our friends. I think
Right.
what we should learn is do not give up your friends
Absolutely.
when you're in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And self-care and preserving yourself and reading and
Yeah.
just investing in you. And I think, and I've tried to tell other people, when you invest in yourself and you are um, your self-esteem is going up, because a lot of some things do point to self-esteem. Your self-esteem starts to go up. You reek of that, and you eventually you're going to attract somebody that sees that you reek of that. So life isn't over, but at that moment, I'm telling you, day
Yeah.
by
Feels
hour by
like
hour,
it.
minute by minute,
Yeah.
you are counting the
Yeah.
days. And just I think the fact that you have this friendship, Clelia, is wonderful. But most people are going to have to go through these stages and find they're happy again.
Quick question for you, Erica. What are you
Yes,
doing
sir.
differently the second time around? What have you learned from coming out of the last one?
Communication is key, and we talked about this. This is his second marriage. He is an A1 communicator. I am the person that's having to learn from him, um, because neither one of us want to repeat where we've been. My need to have a partner, so we discuss things. Um, the needs that he has, we talk about them. We know up front, and I think we're older now, and we don't have all the answers, but we went through premarital counseling, so
Right.
that was instrumental in it. And just, I mean, having that partnership day to day, having, talking about who, it came to the point where he was like, okay, you haven't, I didn't move in until after we were married, like the day we were married. He's like, okay, I want to talk about this. What does this look like to you? This was prior to that, though. This was before proposal. He wanted to know what it looked like to me. So
Wow.
I'm doing communicating. I'm still working on me. I'm not 100%, but I am able to look back and see where I failed in the past. And I think Clelia had mentioned earlier how just kind of being able to get in tune with you and see your flaws and see where you went wrong. She even admitted to being a person that needed someone that was patient, and
Yes.
just being able to identify that. And I agree. I have my ways about me, and we can't blame everything on the zodiac signs.
No.
I think
We
one of
all
the
do.
things Cece mentioned earlier as well, Cece, you mentioned earlier that we as women, we conform or we change our habits to please the other person. So one of the good lessons to take away is to continue to be yourself, continue to work on yourself, your inner person, to be healthy so that you can be a better partner to the other person. If you enjoy sports, enjoy certain foods, cook 2 meals. A lot of women are doing that to make sure that they're still taking care of themselves. Any parting words, Cece?
Absolutely. I think that it's really, really important to understand that, the level of love that you give yourself is indicative of how much you can love your partner. So it's really important to, love yourself first. You can't love someone else if you don't know how to love you.
Beautiful message. Thank you for that. And how about you, Erica? Any parting words?
I appreciate the honor of being among all of you, and yeah, absolutely loving yourself, investing in yourself. And that's not always money. Sometimes that's time, that's meditation, that's whatever works for you. And
Money
if
is
you,
easy.
right, and I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Michael or Clelia that said it, but if someone doesn't want to be with you, giving them that desire, like finding a way, going through whatever you have to go through, because at the end of the day, you can't change someone's mind.
Right.
And one of our viewers put that in the comments. I'm sorry
Right.
to our viewers that we didn't get to a lot of the comments, but I know
Right.
Marlene said if they want to walk away, let them walk away.
Right.
She's not chasing anyone. And a couple people agreed with that. So Michael, any parting words for you?
Yeah, if someone wants to leave your life, yes, it's going to hurt. And, to the extent that you have invested in a relationship, you will feel the pain of it. Okay. But you need to love yourself more. If someone wants to leave, let them go. Why would you want to stay with someone if they are saying to you, I don't want to be with you anymore? You know,
Right.
and that's the thing you need to get to. Let them go, because you will leave. It's a part of it. The sooner you do that, the more you can start to rebuild your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And that's what you want in terms of moving forward. All right. Be
Yes.
honest with yourself.
Thank you. And I want to say, Judith Fallon Reed, thanks for joining. She says, the idea of ownership is one of the greatest issues with relationship. I'm late, but we want to learn not to wrap our entire lives in the lives of anyone else. Two remains two working together as one, but still two individuals. My 2 cents after much experience. Absolutely, Judith. I think that wraps up tonight's show. So thank you for tuning into the Caribbean Edge. We'll certainly respond to your comments, and there'll certainly be a part 2 to this conversation. Thank you. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you very much,
guys.
Dawn,
Thank
you
you.
know, CC and Erica. It's a pleasure.
Great
being here.
meeting
Thanks a
you
lot.
guys.
Pleasure.
Really wonderful.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.